And welcome back. Today flying out Kfir C.7, and I'm going to be very blunt with you guys. If you are an average player, if you are not someone that does exceptionally well at top tier, you are going to despise this thing, most likely. I've looked at a lot of the content creators, and that's including the ones that exclusively fly RRB, and they are not doing very well in it. They are struggling to go one kill for one dead, and there's nothing wrong with that, because this thing is extremely skill intensive. If you are not on top of your game, you are going to struggle. This plane is amazing, don't get me wrong. The airframe, it has insane acceleration, it has a good top speed, the speed retention at high speed is good, lower speed not so much. But this thing is insane if it had a good missile loadout. It does not. This thing would be insane if it had a good gun. It does not. It has 2 Aidens, or 2 Defas rather, and it has 4 Aim-9Gs. And these are not necessarily bad, but at 11.3 you are missing something. You are not fit for the meta. And again, it's just an amazing plane that doesn't fit the meta. In some situations it's going to be very, very good in 1v1s, and I got some clips of that later on as well. But keep in mind, the average playstyle of this thing will be just playing it like an absolute rat, hiding around, hugging the ground, popping up, spiking people from below. And you need to play this thing very carefully, because you do not have the countermeasures. You do not have the ability to dodge the new sparrows. You are just always on the back foot at everything except for the performance. The performance is great, the equipment on top of this thing is not great. The radar is not very good, and the radar itself is largely useless because, well, it's always filled with ground clutter because you're kind of forced to play it down low, and you don't have any radar missiles, so what's the point? In the background here I'm just kind of flying around, and I'm mostly bullying F5Cs, and I can tell you that, oh, I did pretty good in this plane, it's an amazing thing, you should pick it. That's not how this works. It is a good plane in the right hands, in the right situation, and if all those 3 things do not line up, you are going to die, and die, and that's just the name of this plane. It's a shame. I'm really liking the performance, I'm really liking the way that it flies, other than the awkwardness of the rudder. And once you're at low speed, and you'll see that at the end of the video when I start dogfighting a Phantom, it becomes kind of floppy. But other than that, this plane feels great, and it's a shame, and I really hope that they don't down BR this thing, because it is going to perform very horribly at 11.3, but I don't think that should mean that it should go to something like 10.7 or something, because it's going to be very, very strong there. And imagine being in an F5C and just running into a thing like this. Now sure, he's going to have trouble killing you, but there's not much you can do about it. My thing to Gaijin, my idea to Gaijin would be to just give it better missiles. I'm not sure what it can get. I'm not very up to date when it comes to what jets have in real life. I mostly care about the game, but I think that this thing, if it was capable of carrying something better, should get something better, because the way it is right now, it simply is not working. It's a shame though, because it's a beautiful plane. I like the way it flies. I basically like everything about it except for the equipment on it. And the other problem is that the flares that you have, you don't have many, you have 32. And if you want to bring chaff, you're gonna have to look at an even split, and then you're gonna have 16 of both. So you're gonna have 16 drops. And if you have to flare or chaff IR missiles, because, well, you drop both, or flare radar missiles, it's simply a waste, and you are going to run out extremely quickly, and it's just a waste. That's my 2 cents on it. If you haven't seen it yet, yesterday I made a video on everything in the patch, a very brief overview what's all in there, what's that to grind, what you should skip, all that good stuff. So if you are interested in that, feel free to check it out. Everything is timestamped, so you can find it relatively quickly. Onto the gameplay, however, but I can of course rag on this thing, and I can tell you, oh man, you probably should skip this thing. But for the people that actually want to fly this thing and want to learn how to fly it, you really just have to use your performance, and you have to use it to get into good positions. What I do at the start is I run it on half afterburner, and you do that by going to 100% throttle and scrolling your scroll wheel up just 1 tick, and your afterburner will go on. You won't use as much fuel, but you will still go 1350 kilometers an hour on the deck, which is insane. It's good. And I use that to get around the map without using too much fuel, but you do want to be careful, because you can rip your wings off at higher speeds on a high fuel load, but I will show you that in a little bit as well. It's a little bit unpredictable, but you can kind of predict it. Largely though, it feels a bit random. You can avoid it, just be careful with it. We have an F5C here, and this is exactly my my argument, we shouldn't bring this thing down in BR because I can just go up. He has no business trying to get a kill on me. I can get the kill there, but it doesn't really matter because the power that this thing has, it doesn't really matter how much speed that I lose. I would just sit around that 450 to 500 mark and it still turns decently well. And the main thing I want to take away from this clip is that the guns are very annoying to aim at low speed because the plane is kind of floppy. It's kind of hard to get your guns on. That shot was fine, but the next guy, which is gonna be on the runway, I'm gonna fast forward to the part where he finally takes off. And here he comes. A little bit of a shame because it was 1v5 and I killed 3 of them. Well, 3 of them were just kind of ground pounding, so that's why I didn't include it here. But this is the last guy. We are going up the same way we were with the first one. We weren't going as fast on the entry, but he doesn't really have good missiles here and I have flares if he shoots one anyway. And look at this, I put it into a spiral. And even though I have this massive speed bleed, the engine here just carrying me into an advantageous position. I can now pull back into him. And we are going to be looking at some easy kills basically. She's going very slow, but I want you to look at the way this plane behaves. And I'm trying to get my gun on here and you can tell, well that was just, I couldn't bleed enough. That wasn't the plane itself so much, it was mostly me. But here, look at the way it's flopping around. And the Mirage does this as well, and if you have flown the Mirage, this thing feels extremely similar at low speed. Except it also has the power to actually get away with it. Now I'm just having poor aim, that wasn't the plane itself. And the game's almost over. I set him on fire and that's the game. Losing tickets, 5 kills, he's on fire. A little bit of a kick in the balls, but you know, that's the game. A few games later, those were the first 2 games that I ever did in this thing. I got 4 and 5 kills and I was like, oh, might not have the best weapons, but maybe I'm gonna do pretty well in this thing. Well, no I wasn't. A little bit unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. And then I started changing my playstyle a little bit. And then I came to this conclusion. I'm starting to scrape on the deck. I turn my radar off so people don't get an RWR warning. I stay below and I pitch up for people. And that seemed to be pretty effective. Because most people don't really watch. And the Aim-9Gs have some good range. And the range is something that I like utilizing. Because by staying pretty far away and below people, very often they will just not see you. And if people don't see you, they probably won't flare. And when people don't flare and don't see you, the Aim-9Gs are actually pretty good. I prefer them over Aim-9Js on unaware targets, simply because they have so much range. I see 2 people going vertical here, I see 2 F4Js, so I go for the one that isn't flaring, because I have a feeling that the other one has the period, the one where it flares every so often. So it was a bit of a waste to shoot on him, so I locked the other one, and now it's a 3v1 here and everyone is slow. So I'm looking to start turning here, F4J, 4th guy coming in, and now I'm basically boned, so I'm gonna go for the first guy that gets in front of me here, because I don't want the F4J to get distance on me. So I shoot at him, I crit him, and then we start diving out, and I start flaring preemptively, trying to dodge some missiles. I noticed that the first one actually got fooled by it, so even though I'm radar locked, I'm not entirely sure which missiles are getting shot at me, so we start pulling in, we flare a little, and again we are on a map with a lot of terrain, which is something you want to be on, because on flat maps like the ones with Spain with a lot of water, you do not want to be there. And I see the F4J coming in here, so I'm trying to get behind this mountain so he can't lock me up. And at close range, I'm not really worried about the Aim-7Fs, because they are a lot heavier and they don't turn very well. So I'm just trying to get into that head-on zone where they can't lock the missile anymore. I look up and I see the F4 coming in. I also notice there's a guy on my left there, so I already start turning out. And now I need to go full defensive. I dodge the guy diving on top of me and I'm going to start outrunning the guy that's coming from their side of the map. And now I'm in the clear. I need to reset here, I need to fly away from this battle a little bit. And I'm going to re-engage the second I get my footing back. And getting your footing back in this thing is relatively easy. And that's because the power, the weight and just the speed of this thing are absolutely insane. The real thing you want to be aware of is just radar missiles, because the second you get a little bit of altitude, you are going to be in trouble. Because I don't run chaff, and that's simply because if I run chaff, I'm basically boned versus boat kind of missiles. So I'd rather protect myself versus one. But I'm turning very slowly here with my mouse, and there it goes, wingtip gone. That's how easily that happens. Try to missile him in the head-on, doesn't work out. F4J here. Coming head on with me, I'm kind of scared that he's going to missile me. I can't really dodge him, but he's not locking me at the moment. And then I fly away, and it is pretty easy to land with this thing, and I managed to do so. And then I had to take off. It was 3v3, and my team killed everyone, so I'm not going to be showing you me landing and then dying, or not dying, getting 1 kill on a guy that wasn't aware. And this is going to be the last game. And I'm sorry that the footage today isn't the best and I didn't fly to 100 kills and stuff like that. I'm expecting this thing to get changed. I'm expecting this thing to get better missiles, just like the MiG-21 Bis SAO did, or the SAO, whatever you want to pronounce it. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers that this thing is going to get changed. I did get a bit of experience in it, and I did really enjoy the plane, and it's just a shame that it doesn't have any weapons to kill anyone with it. I'd rather equip this thing with a water pistol, which is saying something, than the DEFAs that it has, and that's simply because the DEFAs are spread apart a little bit. They don't have the best velocity, they don't really have the best volume of fire because of the rate of fire that it has. And then on top of that, the plane feels kind of floppy. If this thing had a Vulcan, I'd be flying this thing all day long, and you can bring the 2 Vulcan gun pods, but it makes sure you can bring any missiles, and man does it fuck your performance. It's simply not worth it. So I don't recommend doing that, but of course it's all up for you. This is my opinion, this is the feeling that I have when I'm flying this thing. It's just a little bit of a sad reality of it. It's an absolute monster of a plane in the 1v1, and it will be able to run around most guys with relative ease as long as you don't get locked up by missiles that you can't really dodge. Slam the F4 Phantom, and then I'm almost gonna get killed by the ship AA here, because look at the amount of garbage that's flying off that deck. But yeah, that's basically it. I don't have much more to say about this thing without turning into a broken record, and it's just so fast and it has so much acceleration that you can keep up with the Phantom, and you will see that in a second here. The EJ here is gonna missile the J-35. He manages to miss him. Is he missing an AI? I don't know. I'm looking at a very small screen here. But we are going to pull in behind him and look at how much faster he's going at this very moment. I shoot the missile off, hoping that he wouldn't see it. He does. He flares. He starts dodging. And for now I'm throttling up fully. I'm going full afterburner. And I'm going to be trying to catch this guy. And not much of a problem here. I shoot the missile on him now because he probably wants to dodge it. He is clearly in range, and a lot of guys actually underestimate the range of these missiles. But he dodges, which is fine. But that's gonna cost him some speed. And look at my speed. This is half afterburner. The thing you're gonna see right here. Look at my acceleration. I'm still going to 1400 in a slide dive, which is just insane. And this guy is not gonna win the dogfight versus me. What he can do is force me pretty slow, force a reversal and try to run away, and he can do that. The problem is I can just yo-yo on his 6 because I bleed more speed. I will stay behind him, and then I will out accelerate and catch him again. As long as this guy has all his missiles on, he will not outrun me. I will rip at around 1450 roughly. It feels a little bit random as well as the rip speed, and it doesn't give you the actual warning where you rip, because you never rip your entire wing off. It's mostly the wing tip, and around 1450 I just try to stay below 1420. But he is now trying to outrun me. I'm trying to predict his roll. I'm trying to shoot where he's about to go. But I can't put my nose where I want it to go. So he's going to try to reverse me. I just throttle drop for a little bit, because I don't want to blow my wings off. I want to go a little bit slower. We throttle back up. We dodge his guns here. And we are going to start just dogfighting him. The new sounds, by the way, are absolutely amazing. I'm a really big fan of that, of the engine jet sounds and the new afterburner effects on some of the planes. The only problem is that they are so goddamn loud that when I'm in a voice chat with someone, I simply can't hear them anymore. Phantom here tries to go vertical. It doesn't really matter what he does at this point. Look at this plane. I'm trying to aim my guns, and I'm just flopping all around. He stalls out at the end, and he dies. And that's all I have for you today. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you all tomorrow.